Hi guys, what's up? I'm really excited right now because I'm hanging out with director j.a.bayona, who was nice enough to give me some of his time. So this is a very impromptu talk and tech. And let me see, I'm gonna set this up right here so that I can talk to you. Dun, 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 dun. Awesome. Well, how are you today?
Very good, thank you.
Thank you so much for meeting with me. This is such an honor. I got a chance to see your movie just a couple days ago, and I think my direct quote after I left the theater was that I cried out of every hole in my body. So it was amazing. It was awesome. It was so emotionally moving. Huge congratulations to you on that. And I really wanted to talk to you today about some of the tech behind how you created the titular character, the monster. How did that come about? I mean, you started with this novel and created this wonderful, very emotional, very human character. Please tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the novel is an illustrated book, so there were illustrations from Jim Kay that I love, and then for me it's kind of impossible to separate Patrick Ness' story from the drawings because we're part of the same thing. When we started to develop the monster, we did a lot of designs, but the more we were adding to the original drawing, I think the less powerful it was, the monster. So there was a moment that we went back to the illustrations and we start from there. It had to be like a grounded creature because we're mixing reality and a fantasy in a way that you cannot separate one from each other. So it had to be grounded, very simple. And of course had to be digital because you cannot recreate 40 feet tall creature in a set. We built up the real head of the monster, a real life-size head.
Wow.
And we also had both arms. We had one foot. Louis, the kid, he was always to perform in front of something, acting in front of the monster in the set.
Okay, so you said the head, you had arms, and a foot that were all practical effects. So you actually built those, and then they were enhanced digitally?
Yes, what we have is that those real pieces, they gave us the textures to work on the CGI character. The CGI character, it was the basis for the motion capture that we did with Liam Neeson. We spent 2 weeks shooting motion capture, and Liam was always exactly the same. The kid had the monster in front of him. Liam did the whole performance in front of Louis.
Wow.
And that was the first 2 weeks of shooting that we spent in Oxford in a soundstage recreating the whole film with the motion capture suit, and then the whole thing was to capture all the performance and put it on the digital character.
Well, and Liam Neeson does an amazing job voicing this monster. When you guys go see the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. But to do the motion capture too must make it so much more real, and the practical effects certainly lend to the realism. And there's actually another character in the film, or I'm going to address it as a character in the film, that I think probably required a lot of technical after effects, and that would be the graveyard. Can you tell me a little bit about how you guys put together both practical and CGI to make the graveyard look realistic?
Well, it's true that the book from the original book had a very specific location where you can see the House of Connor, a backyard, a hill, and at the top of the hill you have a graveyard with the tree and the church. We couldn't find that precise location. I mean,
I can't imagine that would be easy to find.
It didn't exist, but we found what was a pretty good house, and we used it as a reference, and then we recreated the backyard in a soundstage. We had the hill in another place, and then we have the graveyard in another place.
Wow.
In that scene in The Nightmare, we are using 4 different locations. We have the hill, then we have the graveyard, a real graveyard in Manchester, around Manchester. Then we had a massive set that we built in Barcelona.
Okay.
And then we have a scale model. We recreated when the church and the cemetery collapses, that was a scale model that we did with a company called Magicon from Germany.
Awesome. And that was a scale model that was then raised so you could collapse it in?
There is a very important scene in the film. We call it the Nightmare. So all the stuff before the Nightmare was shot in Manchester in the real graveyard. And then once the Nightmare starts, then we went to the set in Barcelona. And what collapses is the scale model, is the church collapsing is the scale model.
Well, the nightmare is definitely nightmare-esque. You do an amazing job of making it look incredibly real. Guys, I encourage everyone to go out there and check out A Monster Calls. Not only is it a moving film, but if you happen to be a tech junkie, you're going to love the mixture of the practical effects, the real sets, and the CGI just to make it look beautiful and seamless. So thank you so much for your time today talking tech with me.
Thank you.